Life should not be a journey from the cradle to the grave with the intention of arriving in a safe and well-preserved manner, but rather skidding sideways, body all used up, with wine in one hand and ice cream in the other, screaming, "Woohoo! What a ride." Ladies and gentlemen, no matter who you are or where we come from, we all have our own journey. And I know many of you are on a ride. I too am a traveler, and it is my distinct honor and privilege to be here tonight to share the stage with some amazing speakers, and at the same time to be able to give one element of my journey that has taken me well beyond what I ever imagined possible. What I do know is that my journey is not yet complete. I have learned to focus on progress, not perfection. Feeling the journey, making space for it, and then transcending the experience. Now, for all stories, the beginning of a story is usually the end of an experience. But in order to make an end, we must have a beginning. So tonight, the end is where we start. And I want to assure you that no matter the challenge that you're dealing with or the tragedy you're trying to overcome, you don't have to face it alone. We have a night filled with amazing stories that are going to meet you where you are. Because you are going to get hit in this game of life. It's what you choose to do with that experience that matters. Now, I stand here tonight, fresh off the plane from Vancouver, where I was for the last 5 days. I don't think I've actually slept very much in the last 5 days. But in that journey, I was also thinking about getting off a plane from Ireland 12 years ago. And I think about all the journeys that I've taken ever since that moment. Italy, Greece, Germany, France, Aruba, Hawaii, Alaska, Guatemala, Nicaragua, Honduras. I could go on and on. I truly have been so lucky to travel the world in the 7 seas. I've been up on the top. But I've really been down on my knees because I also remember the trip to the funeral home when my mom died, the trip to the police station when I was accused of sexual assault by someone who worked for me, the trip to the hospice facility when my dad was dying with cancer, the trip back to the courthouse to defend the allegation to receive a discharge, the customs office in Seattle when border guards detained me because Americans don't recognize discharges, the trip when I fell and smashed my head on concrete, which left me reeling with post-concussion syndrome, to the doctor's office when I was diagnosed with cancer, to the trustee's office when I claimed bankruptcy. But I also remember the trip to the hospital 10 years ago next week, the night my son was born. Now, in order to transcend any experience, ladies and gentlemen, you have to understand, and as many of our speakers will share tonight, that it's about something bigger than yourself. And once you transcend that experience and use it and connect with the community around you to pursue a higher purpose, life can truly work. Now, along my journey, I've learned a number of things. The first, and I say this often, is being accused of something I didn't do was by far one of the greatest things that ever happened in my story. Because it made me appreciate what freedom truly is. In our society, most people take freedom for granted. We don't truly understand it until we lose it, if only for a fleeting moment. And the second is happiness. If you ask random people on the streets, which I've done, what does happiness mean to you? Some people will say spending time with family. Others will say a new car. While others yet will say hanging out with friends on a Friday night with a bottle or a box of wine. Those things are all awesome. They create elements and moments of happiness, but those moments are fleeting. which is why we live in a society that consumes so much. Individuals are constantly trying to chase those elements of happiness through experiences or things. I don't believe in happiness. Happiness depends on happenings. The root of the word happiness implies that something needs to happen in order for there to be a result. I believe in joy. Joy at the base of our life is the base of our existence, and if it's the base of our life, that means our success in our life revolves around joy. Joy is free. It's available to anyone who wants it. You just have to decide that you deserve it. I have also come to understand that once you learn, you cannot unlearn. Once you see, you cannot unsee. Once you taste, you cannot untaste. In order to achieve higher levels of consciousness, growth, and maturity, it comes through great pain, suffering, and experiences. And it's impossible to move towards those higher stages of consciousness without experiencing the journey. And I've also come to understand that all progress starts by telling the truth, and it's usually to ourselves. And I know the speakers that are coming up tonight, they're all individuals who have stood in their story and on their story. We're all up against the same thing. Stimulus might be different, circumstance might be different, but all adversity in the world is exactly the same. And there's a marked difference between the experience of a thing and the anticipation of the experience of a thing. I know I've said it. Maybe some of you have said it. How much more can I take? But you must understand that when you say that, you're actually anticipating the bad thing happening. And when you go through the bad thing and transcend it, you'll come to realize that the bad thing wasn't really as bad as you anticipated it to be. So what's the point? We have a number of Mo Monday Niagara speakers in the audience tonight on stage. And 3 months ago, end of May, I was on the Mo Monday Niagara stage, Hard Rock Cafe, Niagara Falls. And my story that night took the form of me writing a letter to my son for his 10th birthday. I shared how when you Google my name, the first thing that comes up is the Guelph Mercury article that speaks about the sexual assault allegation. I spoke about how I've been living in fear for 7 years about my son Googling my name and finding the story before I had the courage to tell him myself. And I spoke about what helped me through. 2 books and one beautiful human who finally held up the mirror for me to see myself when she found out about my story through someone else. And then it was a month ago, the day after our show last month. It was a Tuesday. It was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It was a gorgeous sunny day. My son and I are walking home from Exhibition Park from playing tennis, and out of nowhere, the Google car drives past us. It opened up an incredible conversation which involved my then 9-year-old son saying, "You know, Daddy, when you Google your name, a lot of things come up." I had lived in fear for 7 years about how I was going to start that conversation, and the universe got tired of waiting for me. It did it for me. There are no coincidences. I firmly believe there is no faster path to peace on this earth than individuals getting to know one another. And that's what you're going to find out with the stories tonight. There is so much injustice and tragedy and destruction in our world today, and it's all rooted in ignorance and fear of the unknown. Many people are crippled by the fear of what they do not understand. The journey to the unknown, gives us all the opportunity to build an awareness and an understanding of others, and at the same time make the world a little bit more perfect. And for yourselves, if you take a journey around the world or deep inside yourself, you will also come to know yourself and understand yourself. And how could we ever be expected to know who we are and where we belong in this world if we don't understand ourselves first? And Billy Joel was right. We didn't start the fire. It's always been burning since the world's been turning. And like him, I tried to fight it. But thankfully I learned that once you admit that you're powerless over a higher power, offer it up and surrender to your own weaknesses, you will discover that power inside of yourself. The power that is freeing when you understand that you are no longer the center of your universe. That you no longer have to carry the weight of the world with you in everything you do and everywhere you go. Surrendering is liberating and freeing. Part of this journey called life is understanding that we are not the center of our universe. All you can ever do is be the best you in the moment that you're in with what you've got and the gifts that you've been given, and love the life you were meant to lead.